Thank you very much.
Okay, we are about to start our talk soon. Good afternoon, Ibu Bapak, ladies and gentlemen, IERA and IERA board members, respected speakers, panelists, moderator, and all participants from different parts of Indonesia and the world who join us on Zoom and on our YouTube channel, PBI USD or PBI USD. We are very thrilled that the seats are fully booked. Today we have participants from Aceh to Papua, Sumatra, of course, Java, Bali, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Maluku, Flores, and many more. We also have participants from outside Indonesia, from India and the Philippines. So thanks very much for the enthusiasm. I am Monica Ella Harendita from the English Language Education Study Program of Universitas Sanata Dharma. And on behalf of the committee, I'd like to welcome you all to Virtual Talk number 6. After an engaging series of virtual talk hosted by the American corner of Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, we are happy to embark on a new webinar series. And this series of talks are made possible because of the collaboration of Extensive Reading Foundation, ERF, Indonesian Extensive Reading Association, IERA, and of course the English Language Education Study Program of Universitas Sanata Dharma. The new webinar series chapter PBI USD start today and are scheduled to run every Saturday until the 25th of July. So please don't forget to mark your calendar. And please also note that this month, the talks can be streamed on our official YouTube channel, PBI USD. So please don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get the notifications. And the topics covered in this series will be very relevant and contextual because we, school teachers, are going to start the new academic year very soon. And today, we are very honored as we are going to listen to the talks delivered by Dr. Thomas Robb, Dr. Fenty L. Siregar, and Bapak Thomas Wahyu Prabowo Mukti, M.Pd, who are going to share some insights on the topic, which is extensive reading or reading implementation for school level. So today we have two Thomases from different generations, I guess. And Dr. Paulus Kuswandono from Universitas Sanata Dharma will be the moderator for this session. And we will have our three wonderful panelists and beautiful also. They are Dr. Ani Nunu Wulyani from Universitas Negeri Malang, Ibu Rika Rahmita Suchatma MM from SMA Negeri 1 Cipendu. I hope I pronounced the name correctly, ya. Subang, West Java. And the last one is Ibu Truli Almendo Pasaribu, Master of Arts from Universitas Sanata Dharma. Right, before we start the talk, please allow me to read the rules of this talk. If you're joining the talk on Zoom, please always remember to turn off both your microphone and camera during the session. For Zoom participants, please click on the raise hand icon if you want to address questions. You can also type the questions in the Zoom chat room or the comment box on YouTube. We will have some off-screen panelists who are going to help answer the questions. And at the end of the session, we are going to provide you with a link to the exit ticket via screen sharing. The link will also be posted in the Telegram, Zoom chat room, and YouTube comment box. Okay, and now we're happy to have the Vice Rector of Universitas Sanata Dharma, who is also a lecturer at the English Language Education Study Program, who was also my academic advisor years ago, Dr. Oda Tedaena, to officially open this virtual talk series. Bapak Oda, time is yours.
Thank you very much, Bu Ella. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Okay, hopefully you can hear me, because sometimes the connection is not very good. First of all, of course, welcome to everyone to this virtual talk number 6, I think. Starting from today, we will host this, and also I think the next 3 or 4 other virtual talk. Again, I would like to thank the Indonesian Extensive Reading Association and also the Extensive Reading Foundation, because we started the program in 2000, I think before 2016, but then we signed an MOU to form the Indonesian Extensive Reading in Sanata Dharma University. I'm very happy that the initiative that we started in 2016 has been very good. I learned that there has been so many activities, and it develops well. And even now, I think with the COVID-19, I think there's a blessing in disguise, because previously, the people from IERA have been working very hard to go around and have talks and workshops, and also sharing of experience. But now with COVID-19, then we are forced to use technology, and I think it's been very good. The first round, I think it was hosted by Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta, and then now we continue that. So hopefully this will become a program, a venue that everyone can discuss ideas. Although probably this is not ideal, but I think this is the best that we can do. We can share, we can talk. And one thing that I really like about this program is when it has been developing, and COVID-19 does not, stop the development of IERA. Of course, I would like to thank also Mr. Dr. Thomas Robb. He's been working with us very closely, and also other speakers that we have today, Dr. Fenty Siregar and Mr. Thomas Mukti. And then we also have, I would like also to thank the panelists of today, Dr. Ani Wulyani, and then Ibu Rika, and Ms. Truly also, and also Pak Kos, who will become the moderator for today's talk. So I hope that we can share good practices and best practices about extensive reading. And most importantly is that with this talk, then we can help our students to still learning, although we have to use different methods of learning, but most importantly is that our students keep studying. I think that's all that I can say to MC, who was my she said I was her supervisor, but maybe now she is my supervisor. Bu Ella, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Pak Oda. I will never be your supervisor, Pak. All right, so thank you, Pak Oda, for the welcoming speech. And I'm sure that everyone cannot wait to start the talk very soon. So let's now start the talk. I will leave the floor to Bapak Kus, our moderator. Bapak Kus, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Ella. Good afternoon, everybody. I feel honored to welcome you all in the virtual extensive reading talk series. Today, our theme is the implementation of extensive reading at the school level. It just so happened that yesterday, the Indonesian Minister of Education, Bapak Nadiem Makarim, highlighted in his talk to teachers that the emphasis of school education is to foster the students' capacity in numeracy, literacy, and character education. And we are happy, of course, that we are working in the right track with the government, as extensive reading addresses right at the heart of the need for literacy and character education at the same time. So today we will divide our webinar into two rounds. The first one is for the invited speakers who will share the nature of extensive reading. And the second one is for the invited panelists. So in the first talk here, the main speakers will present their ideas and each of them will talk around 20 minutes respectively and continued by 10 minutes question and answer session. Okay, the main speakers for today's webinar series are Dr. Thomas Robb, as you have already been familiar with. He is a professor emeritus in Kyoto Sangyo University. He is as well the chairperson of the Extensive Reading Foundation. We'll talk shortly about the heart of extensive reading. Next, we will have Ibu Fenty Lydia Siregar, Ph.D. She is the member of Indonesian Extensive Reading Association and she works in Universitas Kristen Maranatha Bandung. She will discuss the concept of 4 strands combining ER and extensive reading and intensive reading at school. And the third speaker will be Bapak Thomas Prabowo Mukti, S.Pd, M.Pd. He is also the member of Indonesian Extensive Reading Association. And Pak Thomas also works in the English Education Study Program Universitas Sanata Dharma, Yogyakarta. He will share his experiences of implementing ER into schools, namely Focused Independent School and Budi Utama. He will highlight his findings and also tips and tricks of ER implementation in school context. Okay, so without further ado, let us start with the first speaker, Dr. Thomas Robb. The time is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. And I do have a PowerPoint which I need to share in order for you to see it. Let's see. Now I have something else here. One participant can share at a time. Can you remove me as a host so I can share my screen? This doesn't look like I can. Or maybe, okay. Host disabled share screening. That doesn't work either. Oh, okay, now I got it. Now I got it. Thank you. Okay, so can you see my screen now? It says ERF Extensive Reading MOOC. That's not what I'm talking about today. That's just covering my email. And now I'll start the slideshow. Presenter view. Yes, okay. And that's my topic, getting started with extensive reading. As you can see, I have 40 slides. I'm going to talk very fast like this so I can finish in 20 minutes, but I think I can. I timed it. Okay, so why should the school curriculum include extensive reading is where I'm going to start. And I think it's sort of almost something that you should be doing morally, because we know that extensive reading is a quick path to language improvement, but we owe it to the students and their parents to provide the best learning environment. So we shouldn't deny them this opportunity to improve their language. And many students and some teachers will not like extensive reading and will be reluctant to cooperate, but 95% of them will cooperate if it is required by the school principal, for example, okay? If it's only a suggestion, you can forget it. They just aren't going to do it, okay? Inspiration and love of reading, which we talk about, will not convince everyone, okay? We may want this, we might want everyone to become lifelong readers, and we have talked about many ideas for making people to love reading, but if you become a role model and if you try, maybe you will succeed to get 10% or 20% of your students to like to read and read without you telling them to. But you aren't going to get everyone. It's a fact of life. They have other things that they like to do. So you might remember this slide from last week, the 10 principles, as Richard calls them. I prefer to call them characteristics. And here are, that's not me with that, in Japan. Okay, so he had these, and the numbers here or of 44 programs, how many people actually implemented these principles in extensive reading? And you can see no one had all 44 principles. Now, my own take is actually they are not all of equal importance. The most important one is learners need to read as much as possible, because that is the meaning of extensive. So if you don't have that, you don't have extensive reading. But next, the reading material has to be easy, because if it's not easy, they will not be reading extensively either. They'll be reading intensively, maybe spending a lot of time, and maybe they will be reading more words than they would if you were just using your textbook, but it's still not really extensive reading. So you need these two, a wide variety of reading material and enough material so that the learners can choose what they want to read. And so this is what we need to aim towards. Now, the other ones here, the purpose of reading is usually pleasure. No, for most students, the purpose of reading is their grade. Reading is its own reward. No, for many, the reward is a good grade. Reading is usually faster. Yes, if it's easy, otherwise it's not going to be faster. Reading is individual and silent. Well, actually, I think they put this in. Actually, Richard one time said he agreed. This was to counter the intensive reading approach, where you get a student to stand up and read aloud and do that sort of activity, which you don't do in extensive reading. Teachers orient and guide their students. Well, if you're doing it yourself, you can do that. But if you're telling every teacher, every English teacher in your class to orient and guide the students, or all of the teachers become a role model, it's just not going to work, okay? Because those teachers have other priorities in their own teaching. So this is the fact of life. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it at all. So there are 4 possible scenarios about what kind of person you are. Are you a school administrator with the power to require the use of extensive reading? Or did the administrator ask you to trial extensive reading in your class and is providing support for you? Or are you one of several teachers in your school who are contemplating the use of extensive reading? Or are you a single teacher who wants to introduce extensive reading in your own classroom, but you have no support network within the school? I have a feeling that most people are in this bottom category. Oh, there's one more category. My school already has extensive reading. And hopefully, well, I know there is one person like that who is here, but perhaps that is where we have to go. We have to get more people to be using extensive reading. So if you're a school administrator, it's easy, because the administrator has the power to allocate a budget, determine how the extensive reading materials will be managed, and to require it to be implemented as part of the curriculum. That's how we started, not how we started. After my English department had done extensive reading for a while at my university, we, on the committee for the whole general English program of the whole school, which was 3,000 students, we decided everyone was going to do extensive reading. And we were successful, even though the teachers didn't like it or didn't even know what extensive reading was. It was in the curriculum. We provided M.Reader for them to track what the students were doing, and we told them the grades at the end of the term. So the teachers, even if they didn't like extensive reading, they could make a grade for their teacher. And so that is not good. That's not the best way. But if you're doing with a whole curriculum and you can't get the teachers enthusiastic, you have to have some sort of system like that. And Rob Waring on his page has a lot of information about setting up a curriculum for a school or setting up extensive reading. And I've taken his and I've added a little to it. So there are 20 different steps here. Planning an IERA program, preparation, getting materials. I'm not going to read the whole list, but then at the end, assignment of vacation reading targets, assessment of the students' progress, and assessment of the program itself. Is it working? What's good with it? What needs to be improved? So all of these steps need to be accomplished to have a successful program. But if you're a single teacher in your regular class, actually, you will be doing an experiment. Okay, there are these issues. you still need to cover the required material because you haven't been exempted from implementing the regular curriculum. And if you don't have books for your students to take home, initially, most of your extensive reading will have to be done in class. You might combine more reading with follow-up activities for further language practice and actually blend the extensive reading that you do offer them with some intensive reading practices. So you need to sell your students on extensive reading, convince them that it's good. And you need to find suitable material and manage it. So it's quite a daunting task, but you don't necessarily need books to start. So how can you find suitable material if you don't have books at the beginning? Well, there are several steps you see here in gray. The first one is cheap, but it needs much more preparation, and it goes down to more expensive, but more efficient. So if you don't have a budget, additional material from the internet related to the current textbook topic would work quite well, but it means you have to find that material. Or you can have a collection of readings from which the students can select articles of interest to them. And actually, I'm offering you some help on that. The IERA MOOC has a section on free materials, and there's a link at the very last slide, and I have a QR code there where you can access it without actually going to the MOOC itself. Now, if some money is available, buy a single series of readers at the appropriate level. A series that has almost all the words known to the students. Or when you get more money, a wider collection of graded readers and youth readers covering all levels and interest areas of your students. So this is where you want to end up, but you may start out up here. So here are your challenges. To get extensive reading working well in your own class is actually just the beginning, because your goal should be to have your entire school, or at least your entire grade level, adopt extensive reading as an essential part of the curriculum. And now, what might happen if you are the only teacher doing extensive reading? Actually, it's not good for teacher-to-teacher relations. They might become jealous if your students gain higher scores or enjoy their studying more. They might not like it if their own students say, why can't we do extensive reading too? And they might consider it unfair if you are asking the students to spend more time on their English than the other students. So these are some of the interpersonal dynamic problems that you might have. So how do you convince the school? Well, obviously, you need to make your extensive reading activity a proven success. How can you do that? Well, give a reading pretest and post-test so you have something to prove that it actually raised their scores. The Edinburgh project and extensive reading tests are available through Rob Waring at ercentral.com, and these have been used for a long time. They're closed tests, basically, at different levels of ability. You can try to enlist your colleagues who are teaching the same level to administer the same tests. Then you can have a competition which you will hopefully win. And of course, you can motivate your students to read as much as possible, but how do you motivate them? That's the next slide. These are just some of my ideas. Convince them that practice makes perfect. You can't play football by kicking the ball once, right? You have to go out in the field and spend thousands and thousands of hours kicking the ball all over the place in order to be perfect. Well, you need that for English too. And you don't have any time to kick the English ball in the classroom, really. You can have a weekly reading goal with a wall chart for the students to fill in how much they've read each week. Or you can create an online Google spreadsheet with everyone having access. And actually, I've made it easy for you. If you go to this URL, which is again at the end, you can just copy and paste your student's name into the spreadsheet and click one button, and it makes a separate tab on the web sheet for every student where they can access it and put in their record. And then the master page for the teacher shows everyone's total scores at the current moment. You can put the students into teams, with a team with the highest word count winning a prize or badge. You could do this weekly, but then have a major prize for the team with the most weekly wins at the end of the term. And of course, you can inspire them by reading yourself and talking about the books that they have, that you have read, etc., and get them excited. So this is the end of the first part of my talk. What does an effective extensive reading program have? It has all these features. Well, it eventually should have unlimited access to readers. You need to have learner training so the learners understand how to do extensive reading effectively. Like if you don't like the book, return it and get another one. You don't have to finish it. You need an effective system for checking the students' progress, because you need to know who is reading and who isn't. And this isn't only for you. The students also want to know how they are doing relative to the other students. Now, you also need enforced requirements. In other words, if they don't do it, their grades are going to suffer, because the grades for the students are the most important thing. And if they don't get good grades, they go home and their parents see the report card, their parents aren't happy. Okay, so you really have to have enforced requirements. And I recommend at least 20% of their grade for the class that is doing the extensive reading should be for the extensive reading component. Because if it's less than that, the students say, I don't think I have to do it. I think I can pass even if I don't do the reading. It's only 20%, it's only 10%. So you need to enforce the requirements. And you need teacher cooperation. Even if they are not doing extensive reading yourself, they need to appreciate it, understand it, and hopefully eventually do it themselves. And you need curriculum-wide implementation, not just you, but the whole school. So these are my ideas about how a good program should work. You need sort of all of these for it to be successful. All right, now let's go on. Where can I get the materials? Of course, there are published materials. There are graded readers at the correct level or lower level, particularly ones that are of interest to them, which is the best. Leveled readers, such as I Can Read, All Aboard Reading, and Step Into Reading, and the Oxford Reading Tree series, these are not graded readers. They'll have some vocabulary the students won't know, but they're made for native English learners. So they're simple and they are leveled. There's grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5 usually in all these series. And as I'll tell you later, the I Can Read series and Step Into Reading series are at least available at some bookstores in Jakarta. I'll tell you about that later. Youth readers targeted at children younger than your own students. That's supposed to be at there. So the vocabulary is simpler. So that also, you can find some of those in Indonesia, but you can't find graded readers so much. So where can I get materials if you can't buy published books? Well, there are found materials that you can find on the internet and copy for your students. They can include follow-up activities based on the reading. The materials you find might be slightly too difficult, but you can adjust them by providing glosses in the student's L1 for the material. And then you can also simplify the vocabulary and grammar. And the IERA MOOC has one module on how you can do this, but briefly, you can take something like this this is from the British Council Learning English Teens. It's a nice story. And actually, this story is available at 3 different levels, but this is the basic one. And then you can run it through a program called lextutor.ca, and it will highlight, or it will change the color of words. The butterfly is at the 4,000 word level. Barking, shocked, argument, connect are at the 2,000 word level. So then you can do something about that. You can give glosses for them, or you can change them to some other word, or remove that sentence, whatever. So anyway, that's just a quick view of that. So when you're looking for an online site, these are some of the common problems. It may say it's an online site, but there's no student registration or tracking. That means you have no way of knowing if the students really access the site. They can say, yes, teacher, I did, but really they didn't. It can say free, but often there's only a sample or two of free material, and then they want you to join and pay in order to access the rest of it. The material is free online, but not for making printed copies. If it's a PDF file, sometimes you can't copy it. It's just there on the screen. The material is targeted to native speaking children, so it has vocabulary, idioms, and cultural references that our students would not understand. And some free material is old, out of copyright material that is stale, with out of style language and outmoded cultural references. There's a lot of this, say, on the Gutenberg.org site. Material for children, books from 1880 and 1890, which they're free, but they really aren't that good for our students. And if you find, but I should say, if the quality of the material is good and the site still has advertising, normally if the quality of the material is good, it means they have a budget to pay people to write good material or to purchase material that is copyrighted. But if it has good material and still has advertising, it might be a pirate site. Please avoid using these. It's against our professional ethics. So please be careful about that. When I find them, I report them to the publishers, and then they try to get the sites taken down. Sometimes they are successful. There's one site that says, don't upload any Macmillan books because you can't, okay, because they've reached an agreement with Macmillan. Okay, so where can I get materials? Well, this is a chart of the materials that are on my M.Reader site that are native speaker, leveled readers, and youth literature. And the green ones are leveled readers, and the yellow ones are youth literature. And one nice thing about these is that they are all series of books. So if a student likes, say, Magic Tree House, he can read 50 books of Magic Tree House. And if you're reading the same series, the vocabulary and the grammar, the characters recur. So it's already pre-structured for the student when they start reading other books in the series. Now, if you want to try to buy books and you have some budget, now at Kinokuniya in Jakarta, they have the Step Into Reading series. I've just shown 4 of them, but they do have more of them. And you can see these are second level, this is for 3rd grade, and so forth. And then at Books and Beyond, they have the I Can Read series, and they had quite a few of them on their website. And also, they have Roald Dahl books, which are for children, and there are a number of other authors which actually have quizzes on M.Reader. These all have quizzes on M.Reader, which means if you do have these books, you have to have real published books that have so that we can make quizzes for them. Then you can use M.Reader to track this the reading of your students. They take a quiz and they get the cover of the book on their own homepage. So how do you get books if you don't have a budget? Well, you can ask if the students have any English books at home. Ask them to bring them in. Some of them will be suitable, some won't. Ask the parents via a letter that the students bring home to donate a specific sum of money or to purchase 2 books from a list that you prepare. But you will need to have a clear rationale to the parents, and perhaps you'll need to clear this with your school administration first. I tried this at my school, and when the administration found out, they said, Rob Sensei, you can't do that. Teachers cannot get money from the students. But then they made a budget for me, which was very nice. Okay, now here is one site that is online, and it looks like this. There are advertisements. The material is good, although it tends to be very rah-rah United States of America, the type of writing that they have, and it has cultural references the students won't know. But this is online, and it would be nice if you could copy this and make a sheet for your students to many sheets, and have your students choose a topic and then read it in class. So what I've done is I've removed all the advertisements with permission from the owner of this site. And so I now have several hundred sheets like this, and you can copy them and put them in the class during their free reading time. They can pick one that looks interesting, and then when they're done, there's also now a cleaned up, no advertisement closed test for them that you can use. So that's one activity at least. Okay, I'm almost done. And here is the Voice of America site, which I'll go through quickly, which has nice material. And there's also a radio audio site, but actually it has readings, listenings like this, but you can see the text at the same time. And this is the British Council site. It has a level test that will give your students a sufferer score and a percentage, which you can use to assess the level of your students. You can't really use it for grades though. And it also has, after you've chosen the level, you can choose what kind of material they want. Here's the speaking, listening, reading material, and there are all sorts of topics here. And this is the kids site, and it has material like this. And this is, I think, the teen site. And this is the adult site. Here's something about cheating. And here's about reading trains, reading train schedules and tickets for England. And here is a very nice site I found. It does have advertisement, but the content is very good. This is my last suggestion. The Little Gingerbread Man, there are other stories too. And it even has illustrations like this, which are very nice. And then here are the links. And here is the URL here, and this goes to the same URL as this. So Rong Chang Lee is the name of the professor in the United States, and he has the site that I showed you, and all the money he gets from his advertisements, I'm not sure if it's all, but he donates it for scholarships for teachers. So it's a very worthy site. So that's all I had. Did I make it in 20 minutes?
More than that. Just a
bit.
Oh,
no.
23 minutes. It's okay. Dr. Thomas Robb, thank you very much for the talk. Now, for the second speaker, we invite Ibu Fenty Lydia Siregar, Ph.D. Ibu Fenty, you got 20 minutes, and the time is yours. Okay, you may start.
Okay, let me start. Share my screen. Yes. Okay. Oh, sorry for a while. Can you see my screen now? No? Not yet.
Yes, it's actually there.
But oh no. It's not this one. I'm so sorry. This one.
Yeah, it's
this
there.
one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but you have to start it. We're seeing everything now.
Yes. Okay. Is it okay now? Yes.
Good.
Right. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So today, as mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about blended ER and IR. If you joined our webinar last week, Professor Richard Day mentions that one of the future directions that we can do or we can adopt in our context is to blend ER and IR in our context. So today I'm going to divide my talk into 3 parts. I'm going to talk briefly about the impact of ER and IR, and then introduce to you 4 strands that is proposed by Paul Nations, and then talk about how to integrate ER and IR using the 4 strands. So let's begin with the first one. Okay, so Dr. Willy Renandia, I don't know, I'm not sure if he's with us. He usually with us. So he has nicely summarized the impact of ER and IR. If you can see that both ER and IR can give a good impact. However, if you take a look at the last sentence in the row on the left, which is the intensive reading, IR or intensive reading has a drawback. The drawback says that the students may develop negative attitudes towards language learning and stop reading once they finish schools. So if we try to combine ER and IR, hopefully that the drawbacks can be lessened, and then we can get the most from both types of reading. So what is four strands? So when we try to the four strands introduced by Paul Nations, and then if we try to use that, we can find what he said is a balanced course, a balanced language course, and then he mentioned there are four things in the four strands, as the title said. Yeah. So the first one is meaning focused input, and the second one is meaning focused output, language focused learning, and fluency development. So what are they actually? So the meaning focused input deals with the process of understand and gain knowledge and enjoy what you are listening and reading about. So it's all about listening extensively and reading extensively. And meaning focused input involves the process of getting your message across to someone with the language knowledge that is very familiar for you. So it deals with speaking and writing activities. And then the third one is language focused learning, which actually most of us usually in our IR class or in our language courses, we focus more on this, is that it deals with learning language features such as grammar, vocabulary, spelling, pronunciation, and discourse. And the last one is fluency development. Of course, it involves how we can improve our students' fluency in the language items and features in all four skills. Okay, so when we try to use four strands, there are criteria that we have to follow. So for example, for the language input or for the focus input, the text that we use should be easy. So the unknown words should be around 2%. So it means that the student should know 98% of the text or of the coverage of the text that we use. So it's very familiar. So that it will not, the student will not have a problem to understand the text itself. Okay, and if it's possible that we can also give the large quantities of reading and listening support before, for example, for listening before, or and then for reading also maybe after that. Yeah. And then for the meaning focused input, one of the requirements is that the students should use the words or the language that is familiar to the students. So it's not the one that is unfamiliar or new. And that as I mentioned earlier, it focuses on message, and it is kind of incidental language learning. And another criteria is the large quantities of speaking and writing support for unknown features. And for the language focused learning, which we usually use, is deliberate intentional learning, and it focuses on language features and strategies. And the last one, the criteria is if we use the text, that it should be very easy, familiar material with no unknown vocabulary or grammatical features. And then the student here, they have to perform like in a faster speed. So speed reading is one of the examples of fluency development. And then the quantity of the practice across the four skills, including the reading fluency, and a focus on meaning rather than language features. Now, Nation also mentioned that if we would like to give some time for ER, the total time of ER should be like half of the meaning focus input that we have. And then after that, 1/4 of the fluency development should be used for developing the students' reading fluency. By reading very easy material, or the student can reread the material that they have read, they read before, because they are already familiar with that, so they can read very fast or faster than before. So now I would like to give you about 30 seconds maybe. These are some examples of activities. If you take a look at the examples, can you group them into, do they belong to meaning focused input, meaning focused output, or fluency development, or language focused learning? What do you think? Okay, now I'm going to give you the answer. I'm not going to discuss this one by one, but I would like to highlight two things. So again, as I mentioned earlier, so extensive reading is one of the examples of the meaning focused input active. We can group that there. And then easy extensive reading, it belongs to fluency development. So the material is very easy. And then, so no unknown words. And then the student also in this case, if they want to improve their fluency, they can read they can do speed reading. Okay, now I'm going to move to the next part. Okay, this is one of examples where ER and IR are blended or combined, but this one took place in Korea and is a university context. But I think this is a good example. I mean, of course, it depends on your context. Will that be possible for you to use 100 minutes for the intensive reading and another 100 minutes for extensive reading? But it might be possible or it might be not possible, because in some schools in Indonesia, maybe you only have 50 minutes per meeting and another 50 minute in another meeting, like 2 meetings. That's if you are lucky. In some other schools, I think maybe you have less than that, right? And this is a good example that is given by Nation and Warren. This is in their latest book, actually. So they give an examples of 1 week lesson in which you can use the 4 strengths for about like 200 minutes. Okay, I think this is a very good lesson. If you would like to start with your blended ER and IR, you can follow this, and then see how whether or not this will be suitable for your context. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, like you have to take a look at your context, because I think no one size fits all. So we need to know our context, and then we have to start small. Why we have to start small? Because probably you have to do this by yourself. You don't have any friends. Maybe you will get some support from school, but there are not much. So it's better to start small, but it's for sure. So, and this is an example that I did in my university. So this is also the new thing for us. So this is our second year. I mean, last year we did this, but in the speaking class. But this year we did that in reading class. So the class was actually supposed to be for factual reading, but then we changed it into ER and IR. So for half of the semester, for 100 minutes, we have ER only. But then we come at the next half of the semester, we have ER and IR. And this is how my colleague and I divide the time. Okay, if you take a look, maybe some of the 4 strands are not really clear here because I don't really specify them. Yeah, but for example, like in the half of the, after the midterm, we asked our students to reread the book that they read in the half of the semester. It's one of the ways for improving the fluency of our students. But since we also have other classes like grammar classes and then pronunciation and other classes that have already paid attention to the language focused learning, so we didn't really pay attention to that in our class. We do spend some time, but we don't really define specific time like long. It's maybe it's only 5 or 10 minutes for that in our class. So this is the examples from my context. Later on, if you have some question, I will give more about this. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, start small, and I would like to also highlight this one. I think teaching professions, once we enter our classroom, it's just like a cartoon professions. Sometimes we are alone, isolated in our class, so we are confused that what to do, or we are not sure with the results that we have. because for extensive reading, the result is not like directly. We have to see it, I think, in a long term. So maybe we will feel a lot of doubts about what are we on the right track or not. So I think it is important for us to join a community of like-minded people. And then if you are interested in art, then maybe I can invite you to join IERA or listen to our webinars so that we can support you and we can support each other in implementing ER or implementing ER and IR. Okay, so I hope I still have time. So I would like to conclude my talk. So I have talked about the possibility of blending ER and IR. And when we blend ER and IR, we can use the 4 strands. But then when we try to use that or adopt that in our context, we have to remember that no one size fits all. Okay, the guidelines, the framework give us how much time do we have to spend for this and for that, for examples. But then we have to see whether it is possible for our context. It is okay, I think, to try some first and see how it will work. And then later on, we can make some improvement little by little so that we'll not be encouraged along the way, and try to find a community that can support you in this small change that you're going to make in your class. And with that, I will close my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ibu Fenty, for the presentation and the talk, particularly about the possibility of blending ER and IR altogether. Okay, next we would like to have Pak Thomas W.P from Sanata Dharma University to share the presentation. Pak Thomas, time is yours, 20 minutes from now.
Thank you so much, Pak Kus.
Hello.
So, hello everyone. My name is Thomas. I'm from Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris Universitas Sanata Dharma. And this is what I'm going to share. For your information, I've been helping Bumita and also Bu Yusefa for IERA Chapter USD since I was in undergraduate. Therefore, what I'm going to share is what we did for promoting extensive reading to some schools. And I would like to thank Bu Yusefa for helping me preparing this presentation, as well as Bumita and other IERA members for sharing what they experience with IERA, and especially for letting me experience how ER works so that I know how to apply it in my classes. And I would like to also underline that what we do is based on ER experts' thoughts and also other teachers' good practices. So these are the things that I'm going to share. First, best practices at 2 schools, namely Focus Independent School, Solo, and also Budi Utama, Yogyakarta. And then some good practices we learn from the implementation and also some tips on ER implementation. So let's talk about our main topic. So first is from Budi Utama Junior High School. We did it twice a month in 1 semester. And why is it? Because we only helped and accompanied them establish ER, since before the program, they had a very wonderful English teacher who is also an ER enthusiast, and his name is Pak Supriyadi. The participants in this event were 8th graders, and we brought graded readers to school to introduce extensive reading to the school, teachers, and also students. We started by giving students chances to choose the books they like for the first 3 meetings. And we let them read it and change the book if they found that the books were not as interesting as what they expected from the cover and also the title. And after that, we also read with them, since we wanted to do the follow-up activity with the students. And we also wanted to be the models for the students. And the follow-up activities were, first, we did literature circle with dice. Thank you so much, Bu Yusefa, for making this one with her husband, and we actually designed it together here in IERA. The questions are like, for example, which character do you like the most, or which part do you like the most? Just like this one, as you can see. And then we also had book conversation related to the book. The topic can be from the die, or it can be directly related to the book and also their experience. And at the end of our program, we give them a book entitled Egghead. I do believe some of you have known this one. So we only give them this book, and we say the title, and the students need to guess what the book will be about by making a man-made like this one. So when they hear or heard the word egghead, they may consider things like food, farmer, chicken, or something else. But that's not about this book. And then in the next 3 meetings, we read aloud the egghead for them. And in the end of every meeting, we had some reflective questions for them. Like, for example, how if you were Michael, what would you do? Or what would you feel if you were Michael? And after that, we also asked them to read another chapters. And then we asked them to write some questions, to make some questions. For example, like, what would you change? In this case, the story, in which part that you want to change? And as the homework, we asked them to write letters for Michael, the main character. We actually also contacted Michael Lacey Freeman, and he agreed to have a Skype video call session with us. And the students actually read their letters to Michael, and Michael replied it directly. And for the students who had not had any chance for reading their letters, we actually scanned all letters, and Michael replied all letters. So from what we did in this school, we actually learned some important things. The first one, we learned that reading can be a new and also exciting activity as long as we try to make it fun. And the next one, if you check the book, maybe in the end of the book, you can check there are some information there. We can actually contact the writer. We have their email, so you can try it. What you need to do is just try it and have the courage to do so. So you can give the surprise to your students. And the second one, we have focused independent school. We actually only divided the students into some groups, and each group was accompanied by one IERA member, team member. And in that group, they need to read some stories. Each group had one story, the same story for each student. And we asked them to summarize the stories into poster. After they finished making the poster, we did the gallery walk. What we are trying to do, or we were trying to do, is helping the students to share their work and also appreciate their friends' work. Pak Willy in our Saturday Bit session mentioned that actually by doing so, by reading, actually we activate the affective domain of the readers, or in this case, our students. So that's very important in this case. And then after doing the gallery walk, we gave them some short articles. At the time, Pak Daniel from M.Pd created this one. It is in Bahasa Indonesia, yes. And we didn't ask them any questions, but we asked them to ask some questions to us and also to their friends. The question was quite funny. For example, like, why is it that old? Things like that one. And what we did here is actually trying to practice their critical thinking skill and also as the bridge for understanding what they learn in school and integrate it with extensive reading and also intensive reading. And in the end of our program, we act out a story and play some games to show that actually reading is fun. And it is not only about reading and then done, but we can do something else there. So what's next after we were there? In FIS, Focus Independent School, they had a program called Book Reference Time. They do it twice in a semester before this pandemic, and the students need to read whatever book they like and present it to their teachers and friends before they present it in front of the schools, the whole schools. While in Budi Utama, we hear that finally the school approves to provide the graded readers. And they continue the implementation and they still consult and give us some updates related to ER implementation. Well, I have mentioned a lot of good practices from what the stories that I have told, but I would like to re-emphasize some things, especially the good practices that we can learn. The first one is actually we need to start it first. Cory Kobe in Saturday with session mentioned that we needed to be enthusiastic about ER before we start the program. So in other words, we need to become the role model and show what we experience from ER and benefits we get from ER so that we can convince others, our students and also our colleagues especially. The next one, we also learned that teammates are very important. Pak Tom himself actually mentioned that teammates include the school administrators, headmasters, and also teachers itself, and then also the students. Hugo from Mexico actually told us a story in Saturday session. He asked the students to help him prepare ER corner. So they prepared the room and also the books, and the result was wonderful. Actually, the students have kind of a sense of belonging. So they protect their ER corner. They keep coming and reading the books, and especially they keep the book well, so that it helps the program runs very well. And then the next one is very important. Why? Because we cannot expect that everything will be directly settled. We need to be consistent and committed at the same time. And Richard J. In our Saturday with session told us a story that he bought his own book for the first time and exposed it to the students. It is actually related to Pak Tom's presentation previously. Knowing the success of Richard J. initiative, actually some parents from other classes protested other teachers who did not provide the same thing. So it happened, and the same thing also happened to Hugo. He also bought some books from his own pocket money to start ER. Then his school administrator finally accepted his proposal and created the ER corner. And well, I do believe it did not happen immediately, but as the result of consistency and also commitment. The next one is especially for those who want to start ER but have quite limited resources. Pak Tom has actually also mentioned that as well. We actually do not need to always buy the graded readers. We can actually download it from the internet, and we can find some graded stories, and even Pak Tom himself prepared some materials that are free, as long as you do not upload it to your website again. So you can print it and you can give it to your students, but don't upload it again, and please make sure that the website is actually not the things that which actually copied from other websites or publishers. And in addition, Cory Kobe also in our Saturday with session believes we can combine authentic materials with graded readers as long as we level them based on students' level. If you are confused how to do so, you can check the ERF guideline, which focuses on the headwords to level the materials or also the books. And actually, I believe you are more familiar with your students, so you can set the level in your group with the students' level. So you can check or get a lot of articles, and then you set the level for your students. And to end my session, I would like to share some tips and re-emphasize some important things that we learned. So the first one, sure, we always need to prepare easy materials. Richard Day in our Studied with session also mentioned that we need to make sure that the materials we choose is within students' linguistic proficiency level. Why is it? Because students will happily do that. They will happily read the materials and also in the book. And without realizing it, they can get the sense of accomplishment because they can say, I have read a book. It is so much better than like they choose the hard material and then they cannot finish it. Well, some of you might concern about students might not learn if they read easy materials. But actually, Richard Day and also Pak Willy in our Saturday Bit session mentioned if we give them easy materials, students actually learn to be more familiar with the words there. So they actually learn from the easy materials. The next one, well, this one is also important. We need to give freedom to students and believe in them. The first thing we can do is we need to step back a little because I know as teachers, we like having the controls in the class, but this time we need to give them chance to choose the books or the articles by themselves and give the controls to the students. By doing so, we can help the students to enjoy the materials and they will have the courage to finish what they start. And the next one, it is about making reading individual and silent. It should be personal, and it is related to one of the 10 principles by Richard Day and Bamford in 1998. So it is so much related with the previous points that I have given to you. But once again, we need to make the reading personal. We need to give them chance to select what they want to read. So they will enjoy and they can relate what they read with their own life. And the next one, some of you might afraid that I cannot implement ER because I don't have time for this one, but actually we can put ER anywhere and anytime possible. What I mean is actually you can expose the books when the students have the break and ask them to read it while they are eating their food maybe. And in Indonesia, we have a very good chance actually in Gerakan Literasi. We can expose the books for some students, I mean some classes, if you don't have the sources for this one. But what you need to remember is please do not give them any tests related to this one or maybe report. What we need to focus is please help them to make the meaning from what they read with what they experience in their own life. And the last one, you need to be patient. It certainly takes time and we will not experience a direct result from what we are doing. And from the experiences, we know that some people might disagree with what we believe actually. So you need to still be committed and consistent in what you are doing. So the school administrators or headmasters will see you and they finally will accept your proposals. So in the end, wise people say that everything is possible if we have commitment. But always remember that commitment is an act, not a word. Thank you so much. These are the useful links and references that you can check. Thank you, Pak Gus.
Thank you, Pak Thomas. 17 minutes, so you are right on time. Finished before 20 minutes. Thank you very much for the presentations. And now we come to the question and answer session. There are a number of questions, and then I have to actually choose because we got like 10 minutes for this. All right. So this is actually addressed for everyone. If you happen to understand or know the answer, you can actually jump in. First question is about this. What factors should we consider in selecting extensive reading materials in order to motivate the students to be actively and gladly involved in the ER activities? So what are the factors to consider? I think Thomas Robb, you might want to answer this question first before we go for this, like maybe short answer.
Yes, well, authentic materials are very difficult because they tend to be rather high level. So if you have authentic materials, first you have to decide if it's something the students are going to like. If it's not going to be something they're interested in, find something else. But then you do have to try to bring it down to their level, or it's usually much easier to identify the difficult words and give them a little cheat sheet of those words in their native language so that they can read it quickly. Otherwise, it becomes just an intensive reading task again.
Thank you very much. Anyone wants to add, probably? Pak Thomas, Bu Fenty? No? Okay. All right. I would like to, send the second question. This is actually from Ibu Arofik. This is from her experience. My students have books to bring home, and I've been trying to encourage them about extensive reading with interesting strategies, but it shows only a quarter, 25% of them interested. What should I do? Probably Bu Fenty or Pak Thomas?
Well, I'm curious actually what kind of activities that the person did after the student read the book. I think for my students, at the beginning of the semester, some of them are reluctant to read, but then when we give the post-reading activities, especially like SAID activities or the conversations group where they have prompts to share the books that they read, they began to read the whole thing because they know that they have to do another activities, and they like it because they can listen to their friends and they can share what they like and dislike about the book and other things about the content of the book itself. So when if you can combine uh, read the graded readers or other materials for the extensive reading, and then you also can include, if it's possible for your context, to include the conversation activities, for example, that can actually increase the motivation of the students for reading.
Can I add something
Okay, sure.
to that?
Pak Thomas.
That's good advice, but the issue I have is it will work with Bu Fenty because she's enthusiastic with extensive reading, and she knows her students, and the students will, read because she is checking them. But when you start doing it over the whole school, then you are requiring teachers to do extensive reading who aren't dedicated to it. And for that kind of teacher, you do need some mechanical way. It's not as effective as having personal charisma, but you need some way to check how the students are reading, which is why I made the M-Reader, right? Because I had 80 teachers and many of them didn't know what extensive reading was. But the students still did the reading because they knew it was part of their grade, okay? But that's why, especially if it's not you, but the other teachers, then you have to think more carefully about how to check what the students are reading.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. There is like a kind of one audience from Zoom who would like to also address question. It is Pak Joni Salakori. So please welcome Pak Joni Salakori. Time is yours now to ask question.
Okay, thank you very much for the time. Mr. Robb, can you hear my voice sharp and clear?
Not sharp and clear, but I can hear it.
Okay. I was fascinated by your explanation from earlier until your last session, especially about your explanation about a single teacher. I mean, since I was a single teacher in my school, you said that there's some sort of activities that we should done for students in further extensive reading. My question is, what type of activities for me that I can do for my students in extensive reading? Can you name some and explain a little bit more about how to implement those extensive reading in the classroom? Thank you very much. That's all my question. I would like to hear your explanation.
Jadi Pak Joni, Pak Thomas.
That's for me or Pak Thomas? For Pak Tom or Pak Thomas?
Actually, it was for you, sir. Mr. Robb, right?
Oh, yes. Okay, fine. Well, there are quite a few activities. One activity that I often used was to have the students come in with the book, put them in groups of 4, and they've been told beforehand that they have to try to explain why their book was interesting in, say, 3 minutes, and they take turns going around and explaining it. So it doesn't take that much time because they're in small groups. So it's not 25 or 50 students and you have to listen to each one explain it. There are quite a few activities, and Fenty gave a list of different kinds of activities that can be done for post-reading activities. There's all sorts, and Richard Day and John McAllister last week, if you look at their videos, there's quite a few activities. Actually, on my ER MOOC, I just finished a module on what sort of activities you can do. And now I'm going to change it and add some of the things that Fenty said and add them to it with her permission.
One last thing, Mr. Robb, is Mr. Willie Renatia joined with us today?
Is what?
Mr. Willie Renatia joined with us today because I saw some flyers about his picture.
I see. No, he isn't here today, I don't think. He
probably
is giving a presentation somewhere else.
No, okay. No, he is not here.
All right, sir, but I will make it fast. This is especially about extensive reading. Also, it's about the getting reading habit and how to assess it from Mr. Willie Renatia. I heard his explanation earlier about how the extensive reading is different from the intensive reading, especially about long and short. My question in here it is, how can we say that intensive reading was a short? I mean, short probably because they read a school book that's more than 1 or 2 pages, but long short is about I'm sorry, long is about the school books, and short it's about the novel books. It's about story books. My question is, how can we define the long and the short books?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that concept, but actually the most important thing is how many total words they're reading. Their textbook has maybe 5,000 words that they read over the entire year. That's all. So you want to try to get enough material so that your students are reading 20,000 words, 50,000 words, or more. My students are reading at least 300,000 words a week. No, not a week, a year. So anyway, I'm not familiar with the long and short of it, and that's all I can say, I'm afraid. You'll have to ask Pak Willie.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Robb.
Okay. All right, we just only have 2 minutes left in this case for the question and answer for the first round. So I would like to probably just like sum up several questions into one. How to organize extensive reading at school level. The question is actually like this. How to organize ER at school before inviting the school for this program? Or is it for regular school or what? Because we are tied up with some goals in syllabus or syllabi. So densely packaged with curriculum contents. And should we have targeted for like a kind of how many books to read for school level? Actually, there are a lot of interesting questions. So, but for example, about like, so in terms of pandemic situation like COVID-19, what is the suitable method to teach reading during the lockdown? Do you have any ideas at school level? So everything is actually on the practices of the school level. Maybe.
Well, maybe if I can answer that,
Okay,
because
sure.
I experienced that. So at the
Okay,
beginning
fine.
of the semester, for us, we have face-to-face meeting, but then we moved to Skype. So I use Skype instead of Zoom. But then I'm luckily because the students are already familiar with the steps that I use, so we will have a silent reading. So I will start my Skype, say hi, good morning. Okay, so we're going to have 30 minutes to read. So we just have to trust that the students at the end of their computer, I mean, in the other side of place, I mean, their home, that they will read at the same time, even though we can't see them, but we have to trust. Okay. And then after reading, have a silent readings for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. We will have a post reading. So usually I mean, for the conversations now, it's not conversation directly, because if the connection is good, they can have videos and then they can discuss the prompt that I gave to them directly. But then if not, then they just have to type in chat. So the prompts are there. So for example, they read different kinds of books, right? So one of the prompts can be say like, okay, tell us about the book or one of the characters in the book. So the students will take turn to tell about the character that they have in the book that they read. So that's one of the ways. Actually, it's okay. I mean, it's just a different media, so they can still use that. Of course, the pace will be slower because some students will just silent. They are silent because they said that the connection is bad. So so we just have to ask the students to who are available to answer the questions so that everything or the learning will go smoothly.
Yeah, but there is a like really crucial question here. I think we need to answer this. Should we test the students after they read in the ER?
What kind of test? Because I don't give a test like IERA, but the assessment will be in the form of reading log. So what kind of book that the student read? How many words are there in the book that they read?
So it's a report rather than testing.
Yeah, but then we can. I mean, during the conversations, if you would like to just to not assess directly, but you see whether or not the students reads at home, maybe you can do that. But I believe that just to encourage them, you don't really say, "So you don't read, right?" I can see from your answer. I don't think we should do that because it will discourage the students.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the comments, questions, feedback for everyone from the audience and also for the main speakers here. Let's now go to the second half of the talk. This is actually the presentation from the panelists. Each panelist will have around 10 minutes to present. The first one is Ibu Dr. Ani Nunu Wuliani. She is working in the English department, Faculty of Letters in Universitas Negeri Malang. She completed her doctoral study in Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand in 2017. And she will discuss this. Lessons from the implementation of ER at campus for high school teachers. She will also share maybe some practical activities also when she was taking English proficiency program in Victoria University of Wellington, which she used later in her ER classes. And the second one is Ibu Rika Rahmita Sujatma, S.Pd. MM. She is the principal of SMA Negeri 1 Cipendei, Subang, West Java. She is also the book grant recipient from the Extensive Reading Foundation. And the last one is Ibu Truli Almindo Pasaribu, MA. She is working in Sanata Dharma University, and she is going to talk about the contextual constraints and ideas to enhance literacy in schools. Okay, so for the first round, for this panelists, the time is yours, Ibu Dr. Ani Nunu Wuliani, 10 minutes from now.
Thank you, Pak Kus. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to share my screen now. Okay, right. So the title of my presentation is Extensive Reading Lesson Learned. I have a few things to share with you. How the story starts, and then my EPP program, and the 4 strands that Bu Fenty has discussed previously, and then extensive reading at our department at English department, Universitas Negeri Malang, and then 5 principles that I would like to share with the high school teachers, and the epilogue. Okay, so my love of reading actually starts a long time ago. I was reading things like the famous 5 or 5. In Bahasa Indonesia, we have 5 sekawan, and it was in Indonesian. And then I also read Oliver Twist, but it was also Indonesian version. Okay, and then later on, actually, when I start learning English, and then I also studied in New Zealand. Then I also, before that, actually, I watched the movie, and later on I read the novels. So I agree with Roald Dahl, who says that if you are going to get anywhere in life, you have to read a lot of books. So this is actually the starting point of my journey, actually. Ibu Fenty Siregar has previously discussed the 4 strands about meaning focus input, meaning focus output, and also the language focus learning and fluency development. And she also mentioned previously that each strand should receive a roughly equal amount of time in a course. Why do I need to talk about this? This is actually, if Bu Fenty previously mentioned about how it works in a language program, I experienced that. Before I start my PhD, actually my supervisors required me to join the English proficiency program so that I understand how it feels. The situation in other, the situation of activities learning in foreign country, because my undergraduate and also my master degree was in Indonesia. So what we did at that time was that on the first week, on Thursday, we did a pre-test. And on Friday, we received a list of vocabulary. And that's for module 1. We received 15 words. And on Monday, we have to submit those 15 lists of words actually with the part of speech, and then the meaning, and also the examples of the sentence using that particular word. And we start our module, New Zealand culture, at that time, and we read a text, and then we discuss. So on Tuesday, on Wednesday, we also do the same thing. So it was an integration of reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So those meaning focused input, meaning focused output, and then also focused language learning. That's all were done from Monday to Wednesday and also Thursday. On Thursday, we usually have an ordinary class, but then in the afternoon, we have the test. This is testing what you have learned from Monday to Thursday. And on Friday, we will receive another list of vocabulary. Still module 1, but 15 different words. Okay, that's my experience. The next one, the extensive reading at our department. So this is the description of the course profile of extensive reading. The extensive reading in our department provides the students with opportunities to choose, and read short stories and abridged novels at intermediate level. It aims at developing good reading habits, giving opportunity for the students to refine their reading skills, building up knowledge of vocabulary and structure, encouraging a liking of reading. It requires the students to respond to what they have read and to carry out a variety of classroom activities in order to share with one another what they learn from their reading materials. So we do not really have a test, but we usually have conversation, one-on-one conversation with the students. And here are some activities that we are doing, during the extensive reading. So I usually use Ph.D and Bramford book. The first one that I usually set is the exploring personal reading history. And then after that, we also have reading and youth questionnaires. This is very interesting because we would like to know actually how much that the students have read, about what they have done in the past and things like that. Sorry for the sound. And then we also have a gallery walk. And then we also have 4-3-2 activity. 4-3-2 means that we usually share activities like 4 minutes with the first group. And then we have to share the same story with different group in 3 minutes. And then we have to share the same story again with another group in 2 minutes. This is helping the students to, to read and then to share with others. And I also even use Pecakucha. I use an example like if they have read, for example, 6 books, then they have to share the, the picture of the book, for example, the cover of the book for 20 seconds. So all the 20 seconds for each. And then each of the students need to present that I have read 6 books, for example. The first one is this, the story is about this, and then the second one is this. So in 20 seconds, the slide will change itself. And we also have end of a term or semester project. The example is this one. So this one, the first picture, as you can see, is, a book, what do you call that? The one that for reading, when you read, you put the book, the paper on it so that you will know that you are on that page. What do you call that? Forgot.
Bookmark.
A bookmark.
Yes. Sorry, yes, a bookmark. But the bookmark needs to have a quote from the book that they have read. Okay, and the second one is the gallery talk. So one student will present, the other will sit down and pay attention, and then they will go to the next students. And the last picture that you see here is a pyramid story. So they turn the book that they have read into a pyramid. So you have, the story, the introduction, the series of events, and then you have the climax, and then you have the ending. So this is an example of a final project that my students do.
1 minute, please.
Yeah. Sorry, Pak?
1 minute more.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So 5 principles. This is actually the most important things that I learned. So you have to start small. I agree with Bu Fenty, and then Pak previous day also mentioned about that. For me, myself, I would suggest that if you are in high school, use Indonesian, then move to English if it is not possible to start with English. And then use any possible resources. Ibu Bapak, you also have this one, the website from Gerakan Literasi Nasional. It has a lot of books actually in Bahasa Indonesia. And if you want to, then you can visit Polnation Resource. This one is actually the speed reading. Bu Fenty mentioned about that, speed reading. It is also downloadable. Okay, so you can use and then also share it with your students. My 4th principle would be creative, Ibu Bapak. And then I agree with Ibu Fenty again, work with others, ER community, and then TV. TV means teacher voice. Yes, you will get a lot of lessons and then a lot of tips from the group. This is not really the end. This is a writing that I see in a school, a high school in Christchurch before there was what is it? There was a problem there. So this is taken from the Harry Potter. This is very inspiring. I think there is a reading corner over there. And the last one, this is from Wellington. If you are going to Wellington, then you would see this. And I can see that the story continues. What I mean is that my story of reading will not end here. It will always continue. And I believe that I will read. And I believe also students will love reading if they have sufficient support and also examples from the teachers. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Ani, for the presentation. Next will be Ibu Rika Rahmita. So, Ibu Rika, the time is yours.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon. My name is Rika Rahmita Suyatma, and I am a principal of SMA Negeri 1 Cipendei, Subang, West Java in Indonesia. Indeed, I feel honored to be invited in such great talk like this. And so my gratitude goes to Universitas Sanata Dharma, Ibu Mita, Pak Thomas, but my biggest hello goes to Professor Thomas Robb, my mentor, my inspiration. Hello, Pak Tom. And also, in this occasion, allow me to share our school experience in implementing ER program with its challenge and opportunity. Listening to the previous presenters, it seems that they talk, Ibu Murni and also Pak Thomas talk about the school teacher from the school level, from the school teacher's point of view. But I think because I'm a principal, I will talk about the managerial level because I'm the principal. Why actually I fell in love for the first sight with extensive reading when I attended a seminar in Bandung and Pak Tom was the speaker. I remember that I sat in the front row and I had focused on Pak Tom's lecture since the very first day to the third one. And from that time, I kept saying that this program should be implemented in my school. Why? Because my school is located in a rural area. The people living there are marginalized by industrialization, and they are people with low educational background. They also have limited access to education because of the financial difficulties. So most parents in my schools are blue-collar workers, and this makes me worry about my student future if they have finished their high school. So I have a strong need to give students good command of English as a value-added qualification because English can help them to find a good job if they are not continuing their study or they try to pursuing scholarship for education. And I hope having good educational background and a job, good job, it seems that they will improve their social and economic status. But from the seminar also, I have learned that setting up an extensive reading library would be very expensive. Credit readers are not available in Indonesia. And also at the time, I know I was introduced to X-Reading, which is also the paid application. I know that I cannot afford the cost. So I'm not kind of person who is easy to surrender while I face a challenge. So on the third day, when the seminar was almost ended, I approached Pak Tom And I asked about the possibility if extensive reading program can be implemented in my school. And Pak Tom said this and that. So back home, I sent an application letter to Extensive Reading Foundation seeking for a grant. And praise the Lord, Alhamdulillah, my application was granted. So then afterwards, Pak Tom then assisted me to plan and set the library based on these questions. So how many students need to read? How much do students need to read and how often? And how many books do we need to cover different levels of abilities and interests? And so other questions Pak Tom asked me. So the next steps I do is we did a school self-evaluating using a SWOT model. So from the strengths, I know that we found out that we have support from extensive reading foundations. We also have support from the school committee, even though they do not know at all about extensive reading. But the most important thing that we have faith to be successful. And for the weaknesses, I found out that we have only one English teachers available in my school. And also we have limited space and storage in school library. For the opportunity, we know that we have the available grants in the form of books, the graded readers, and also we have open-minded teachers who are ready to cooperate. But the threat is there. A few teachers are not fully interested in the program. From the self-evaluation, we set an implementation plan. So for the started by the introduction phase. So we did book preparation. So then we did also reading practice for teachers and students, which is very important. For the implementation phase, we had a conclusion that this extensive reading program will be a mandatory part of English class. And since we have only one English teacher, so we have to involve the non-English teachers. And in doing this, I send them a kind of informal questionnaire. And we have also 15 minutes sustained silent reading before class and reading during recess and after school. And for the evaluation, because we are at the first stage of implementation, we have the informal monitoring and also the informal oral comprehension checks. And hopefully, when the program is well implemented, that the student will have to read, the students will improve their English skill, and they will increase the test score. This is our midterm goal. And this is the book preparation we did. We asked student volunteers to cover the book using the transparent mica cover to keep the book from crumpling. This is very important since the books are our treasures. And this is very important because the teacher's involvement is very essential. Without their support, the programs will be hard to reach the success. So we have reading practice. First, I asked the teachers to select a book which are provided on the table, and then they chose the books they liked. But then they did 5-finger rule. I asked them to do this because it is very important to make them know that the book is at the suitable level of their reading level. And also they are reading. When they were reading, so I saw that some teachers read fast, and so then they selected another book again and again, but some also were reading slowly. And at the time I set the time. When the allocated time was over, I asked the teachers to retell the book they have read. And at the end of the session, so they asked to tell what they felt. Surprisingly, most of them said that English was not as scary as they thought because they could understand the stories which are written in English. So this is the 15-minute silent reading before class that our school do. And as I previously told that we have only one English teacher, so we have another non-English teachers to facilitate the activity. They are English teacher, biology teachers, mathematics, physics, economic, even Bahasa Indonesia teachers involved in this kind of activity. So they bring a basket full of books and let the student reading. They ask the student to read as they like, and they did like what they did previously in the introduction. And to tell you the truth, that at first students found difficulties as they were not familiar with this activity, but later they asked me more. They come to me and ask me more time so they can read more. So for the evaluation, for the evaluation, we do informal monitoring during reading. So the teacher observes students look understand, bored, interested in the book, or if students sit enjoyably and sleepily. And also we have informal oral comprehension check. After students finish reading, teachers see if they can retell the story without trouble, or they can react freely by saying what they like or dislike. And even we have this kind of WhatsApp group whose members are teachers as a media of communication and share the classroom practice. And we name the group ER Fighter because we are the extensive reading fighters. So this is the activity reading during recess and after school. So I put books on the table in the school gazebo and they read what they like. And it is very premature to say that our program has reached the success. It is still a long way to go. But I know I'm not a lonely wanderer because Extensive Reading Foundation will support me as IERA will also support me. So thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ibu Rita, for the presentation. Next will be Ibu Truli Almendo Pasaribu, Master of Arts. Now, the time is yours, Ibu Truli.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Gus. Let me share my screen. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to be the last speaker of today's webinar. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, so this talk is about challenges and ideas to cultivate literacy in schools. Let me start by quoting a public figure, our national hero, Bung Hatta, who says, "Aku rela dipenjara asalkan bersama buku, karena dengan buku aku bebas." So he says that it's okay for him to be imprisoned as long as he has books, because reading books sets him free. This expression shows how much he loves books. However, it is unfortunate that not everyone is like Bung Hatta. Some may feel that reading is a burden, something that they have to do. It is thought-provoking then to see why this kind of activity is seen in totally different ways by different people. Today, I'm going to share some graphs. The first one is related to social variables that may lead to the lack of reading interest in school. Let me start by the children themselves. Some children are excited when it comes to reading. Some children love to see books on shelves, but some may not be that motivated because they associate reading with grades and exams. They may also face some challenges, some distractions, like playing games or watching movies. Nowadays, people are less interested in reading books. We are more interested in something that can give us instant pleasure. We feel comfortable scrolling our handphones for hours rather than reading a page on a book. Okay. So, community can also be accountable for the lack of reading interest in schools. We don't have many books available for public because of limited funding. Bu Rika mentions that making book available can be very expensive. Thus, we need more research to promote how schools can improve literacy and can nurture the love of reading among students. Some teachers serve as great role models, great reading models, but research mentions that more teachers need to show how they love reading. Some teachers need to be good role models. Some teachers and lecturers perhaps often give texts so that the students can pass exams. It is mentioned in this research. And we don't offer students choices, maybe because of the lack of facilities, not enough books. And I think family play very important roles in raising readers. Some parents love reading very much, but some don't read much because they don't have books, don't have many books at home. Some may prioritize other issues, other matters like financial matters or economic and health matters. So, how do we deal with these challenges? How can we turn these challenges into opportunities, into ideas in nurturing literacy? I have another graph. So, how can we boost up reading interest in school? I am inspired by a movement in some school, one child, one book. So every student need to bring any books as long as the books are interesting for them. The books can give joy when they read it, and they are encouraged to share it with their friends so that their friends can be interested to read the book as well. Schools can also work together with university libraries and some organizations. Organizations like Pustaka Bergerak Indonesia, Pustaka Loka, Rumah Dunia, Happy Hearts, Room to Read are bringing books online and offline to children at homes in villages across Indonesia. So we can work hand in hand with the community. And Indonesia has a strong oral tradition. We need to admit it. We love to talk. That's why we need to think of different group post-reading activities. This IERA webinar has explored several activities that are socially engaging. Last week, Ms. Ping mentioned dialogic reading, and some others mentioned about reading circles and also reader response. And Pak Thomas and Pak Willy previously mentioned the importance of ER corner or reading corner, where students and teachers can talk and read books. They can have online and offline sources, and they can engage with their teacher in talking or reading about books. Previously, I have talked about several post-reading activities at AMCOR UMY Facebook. I have talked about reading circles and reader response. If you haven't heard of them, you can check out AMCOR UMY Facebook. And in this opportunity, if I still have time, I would like to share briefly another post-reading activity that is called three-round conversation, which is inspired by Romo Harjanto. And it has been applied in our study program. So, as the name suggests, three-round conversations has 3 rounds. But before the conversation, the class is divided into groups, and we require students to read the books silently. And after reading the books in the first round, we let students to take turns in responding to the text. Others write what they find inspiring from their friends. So the first round is talking and sharing. The second round is for the affirmation. So each member has to say one response from their friends that moves them. They can mention the name, like, I am inspired by City who says this and that. So we are affirming our friends. And the last round is synthesizing. We are summarizing the discussion in a phrase or a sentence. We are constructing the meaning from the text. So this activity can be beneficial because it encourages reading practice outside the classroom before the round starts. We read the text, it gives Gen Z to learners, encourage students to be active and attentive when listening, and it can boost up solidarity. Well, I believe that all of us have some nice and engaging reading activities, and I hope that you can share these activities with us in YouTube comment or in Zoom chat. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Truli. Now, well, I got several questions here, but because of the time, I may not be able to explore those questions. Some questions have been asked, have been answered through chats. Yeah, so well, I do hope that you are okay if we do not open a question and answer session. But I actually suggest that the several questions here can be put by the committee in the website, Indonesian Extensive Reading Association, for example, as a kind of frequently asked question, or probably it's already there. As a kind of series, I think records or notes are important for us to learn together. So if those who miss this meeting, they can consult in the websites for questions. Well, okay, so because our time is very much limited, then I would like to return this session to the MC for Bu Ella. So thank you very much for the presenters, for the panelists, for the speakers, for the presentation, for the inspiring presentation, and I actually return back to Ibu Ella. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Kus. There's a saying, time flies when we are having fun. And so far, we're not just having fun, but we've been having a very fruitful discussion on the topic ER implementation for school level. I hope you can gain some insights from today's presentations. Before we close the session, I would like to share some important information. The exit ticket link will be shown on the screen. Okay, so it's bit.ly/exit with capitalized ENX and then underscore ticket VT6. Okay, if you're having problem typing the link, don't worry, we are going to share the link on Telegram and also the Zoom chat room and of course YouTube channel. So please visit the page and submit the form and you will get your e-certificate after you have submitted the form. And please kindly note that the link will only be available for 2 hours starting from now. It is now 5:32 p.m. So it will be closed at around 7:32 p.m. Western Indonesia time. And don't forget, we'll be back next week on Saturday, the 11th of July. You can see the poster on the screen with another inspiring topic, which is reading resources for school teacher. It will be held at the same time, 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. So please don't forget to set your reminder. You can see that we are going to have some speakers, including me. I have already started being nervous. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, before everyone leaves the meeting, as usual, we are going to have a very brief photo session. I have Thomas, our professional photographer, who is going to help us with the photo shoots. Okay.
Okay, everyone, please open your video. I mean, don't stop your video so I can take your pictures. There will be 4 sessions. I will do it quite quickly. Okay, are you ready? In 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. The next one. Okay, please open your video. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Let's move to the next one. 1, 2, 3. And the last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, Ibu.
Okay, thank you, Pak Thomas. Okay, so again, we would like to thank all the speakers, the panelists, the moderator, and of course, all of the participants for joining this talk. So this is the end of Virtual Talk number 6. See you next week on Virtual Talk number 7. Happy weekend, everyone. See you.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
See you.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
next week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Can I get
Bye
sorry,
everyone.
can I
Thank
get
you.
the material?
Yes, sure.
Where I can get the material?
We will share the link
Oh,
for
okay.
the
We will
class.
share it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.